Look at all of you nerds out on Friday for a book talk. Yeah. This country's not totally in the toilet yet, right? How's everyone doing tonight? Thank you for being here. This is our first Live from NYPL of the fall, and I couldn't think of a better way to kick things off, and I'm so glad you're joining us here in the room, watching online. My name's Aidan Flax-Clark. I'm the director of Live from NYPL. We have a lot of really good things coming up in the fall. Just this month, Jill Lepore and Sonia Sotomayor and Dua Lipa. And after that, Gary Goldman, Tim Gunn, Gis Jen, a whole bunch of other people. It's a really great season. You can go check it out at nypl.org/live. And also you should sign up for our newsletter so you can get notified about new things as they come up. But tonight, I am thrilled that we are here for a conversation with an author I really love, Miriam Toews. You gotta clap, that's right, yeah. I had written hold for applause, so you had to do that. I not only get to introduce her, but we're gonna speak tonight, and I just couldn't be more thrilled to do that. Miriam is the author of 10 books, including Women Talking, All My Puny Sorrows, Swing Low, Irma, Voth, and of course the brand new A Truce That Is Not Peace, which is what brought her here tonight. Hopefully when you walked in, you saw that the book is for sale, and hopefully you purchased all the copies of said book. You will have time to purchase it after the event as well, and Miriam will be up here signing it. And obviously everyone has a library card. I'm not even gonna ask why would you come to this building if you didn't have a library card. That would be a shame. You would be embarrassed. We would hassle you. You can use that library card, of course, to get not only this book, but all of Miriam's books. When you walked in tonight, someone handed you a note card. That is for asking questions. Some colleagues of mine will come by and pick them up during the talk, and we will go through some of those questions at the end. I very much encourage you to phrase your questions in the form of questions. And if you're watching online, you can put a question in the chat, and we can grab it there too. So wherever you are, we want to hear from you. Live from NYPL is made possible by the continuing generosity of Celeste Bartos, Manaz Ispahani Bartos, and of course all of you here. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you for being here with us to kick off the season, and let's give it up for Miriam Toews.
Thank you. It's so good to be here.
I'm very glad you're here. How are you doing? How is talking about this book going? I know it's a very emotional book.
No, I'm doing well. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here.
Okay, well, I was telling you as we were walking out, because I work in a library, I am contractually obligated to actually start with something that shows up in others of your books, which is that your father is responsible for having a library made. Is that right?
Yeah, actually, my dad started the first got the first library going in our community in Steinbach, Manitoba, small Mennonite community. Certainly, a library was not something that was encouraged or supported or thought to be necessary. And he would walk the streets of town with his little clipboard, getting people to sign. Do you want a library in town? And and he did this, day after day, 30 below, and presented this to the town hall, to the elders of the community, and they shut it down so many times, and he kept doing it until finally they said, okay, fine, we'll give you your library, and it was a small room in the old high school, and then he ordered the books and got some tables and chairs and built the shelves himself, and my sister, who was I think about 15 at the time, was worked with him in the library, and then over time, apparently, I'm told, it became, or has become, and it's not in the same place anymore, it's bigger in a different place, but the most used library in all the world. No, and then I think in like Western Canada. So like that. Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah, it's very popular. Yeah.
That's amazing. So I could ask questions about the library all night, but I'll just do a couple. Is his founding collection still there? Do you know, like the books that he ordered?
Oh boy, I don't know, but that's an excellent question. I would like
Thank
to.
you.
Yeah, very good question. And also, we can talk about libraries all night too. Like I enjoy it. It's a favorite subject, and so I don't know. I need to check that out.
And how long did it take him, like all this setback and defeat? How many, was it years?
Yeah,
months?
a couple of years, from when he had the idea to do this until it was, yes.
That's amazing. I will move away from libraries, but one of the other reasons that I wanted to ask about it is because, a lot of this book, you struggle with this kind of question of like, is it meaningless to write or not? And it made me think about something that your dad, or you in the voice of your dad, says in another book, Swing Low, where he said, I put a lot of stock in written words. And it made me wonder a couple things, but it made me wonder how he felt about you being a writer, what it meant to him, and do you think about what he would have felt about that now, were he still here?
Yeah, he believed, he was a school teacher. He believed in reading and writing and reason. And we had books in our home, and we all read. But the kind of books that I write, he wasn't necessarily. I think it sort of confused him a little bit. I mean, he was a very devout believer, and a conservative, really, member of this of our Mennonite community. And so, while he did absolutely, believe in reading and writing, I think when I started writing, he was a little bit afraid of what people would think. And I remember after having written my first book, his only comment was that, well, you're quite a wordsmith, he said. And but I took it. I thought, thank you. Like, that was good. I mean, I didn't really expect him to say even that. And so yeah.
And do you think at all about what written words meant to him in the context of that he was a very silent person, that he would go silent for very long periods of time? Do you think it weighted that meaning for him in any way?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the whole, what words meant to him, what literature meant to him, what language meant to him, and he also wrote. He kept a journal, and he encouraged his students to make a newspaper. They had a newspaper, student newspaper every year. I mean, he wrote about the classroom. He wrote about teaching. When he died, he was busy writing about the various prime ministers of Canada. He was very, very much into Canadian history and politics, and I think so. So he had a very, he had a very intimate relationship with language, with words, with the written word, and I think that there might be some direct kind of relationship with that when you have that. If you have that, then you also know the limitations of language in terms of expressing one's deepest thoughts and feelings, and the sort of sense of futility around that. And so, his periods of silence, I think, were probably a little bit related to that sort of his faith in language, his belief in language, and how that would be eroded, when it comes down to it, not actually, being able to have the words to express that deep, basically in his case, that deep psychic pain.
I embarrassed you backstage telling you that I read all of your books this summer, which I have to tell you was a true delight. If you haven't done it, I recommend it. They're all fantastic.
Some kind of summer.
You're not a beach read. I mean, you know. But I'm not a beach person, so it's fine. But reading across your books, I got the sense that you grew up in a house that was simultaneously filled with silence and maybe also laughter and music. Is that true?
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, my sister was always playing the piano, practicing her and scales, and you know that was the backdrop, the soundtrack for sure. And both my father and my sister suffered a lot from mental illness, periods of depression, and sometimes you know, manifesting in these extended periods of silence. And just not talking, and then my mother, on the other hand, you know, was just kind of she was there, laughing, talking, you know, moving around like a little, you know, kind of a whirling dervish of you know, joy and gaiety, and so it was a strange kind of, you know, combination of these things.
Is that just who she is, or was any of that kind of to make up for the silences?
Yeah, I think both. I mean, I think that is who she is, but certainly I think she was always just as I was, you know, when I came onto the scene. Feeling a need to compensate, you know, for that silence. These silences, sort of, you know, they freaked me out when I was a little kid. I didn't understand. I thought this is so strange, and I didn't know why this was happening. And then my mother explained to me what was happening, and so you know, so after a certain point, when you know, when my father and my sister would become silent, I could, okay, you know, we could still communicate in some ways. But I think, to answer your question, I think that, my mother was doing the same thing, a kind of, you know, not a forced joy necessarily, but certainly, you know, an instinct to go towards, you know, the light, you know, or the lightness, and the laughter and the sound, you know, to you know, and to create a kind of vibe, you know, that would just cut that darkness and that silence.
I find that, for whatever it's worth, so inspiring. I feel like I know people, and maybe I'm related to people who have the opposite reaction to the darkness, which is to just like pile on top of it and sort of hug it and, you know, make it bigger. So I find it really amazing that that's who she is.
Yeah. I mean, and that is who she, you know, all of our lives actually, and you know, she's just this force of, you know, a real life force, a real her resilience, and she's been through a lot, and I think that she, I mean, she's just a person that I write about all the time, basically. And yeah.
I'm going to assume I'm not the only person in this room who's a big fan of your mother's, in addition to your books.
I wish she could be here.
We can send her the live stream link real fast. It's closed captioned. I'm not going to let it go.
I know. Okay. We'll do it.
So your sister, during one of these periods of silence, when you were going on a big trip to Europe, asked you to write to her, and this becomes this kind of big central piece of your book. Why did that become such a big piece of the book?
Yeah. So you know, and the book is kind of, I mean, there's a central question of the book. You know, why do I write? And I'm attempting to answer that question, obviously, without any real success, but you know, when I think of that time, I was 18 and I was leaving home. I was going on a trip with my boyfriend at the time to Europe. We were cycling. We were gonna, and And my sister had been she was 6 years older than me, and she was very, very sick, very depressed at that time. Had left university, moved back home with my parents, and asked me to write. She, really, firmly, Miriam, you have to write me letters from Europe, and I agreed to, and I took it very seriously. And we kind of made a pact. And again, I was young and naive, and and she was young too, but sort of, with the implication that, okay, I'll write you letters if you stay alive. And of course, knowing now what I didn't know then. I mean, letters aren't going to keep somebody alive, somebody who wants to die. But at the time, this was an urgent mission of mine. And so by doing that was the first time that I had that I wrote things, that I was writing basically stories about our life, mine and my boyfriend's, and so I had all the elements of writing there. I had the characters, the plot, the journey, the conflicts, which there were many.
I mean, Wolfie seems like a real piece of work.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so there we were, and I wrote these letters and sent them back to her. And so for me, if the book is my attempt to, my failed attempt to answer this question, why do I write? That was certainly the kind of the beginning of it, when sort of like little, these things going off in my head, thinking, oh, okay, yeah, I'm enjoying this. I was writing to entertain her. I was writing to sort of, appeal to her, to her will to live, and to be honest with her, intimate, really writing about, myself, which was probably the first time that I had done that too, especially, with my sister, really anybody. I mean, so that's why I include some of these letters because it was the first time that it occurred to me that writing was something that I could enjoy, something that I could use as far as something to connect me to another person.
Do you still think of her as an audience now?
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And not just with writing. I mean, sometimes, almost every day, I'll be like, Marge, like, what do you do? Whatever it is that I'm thinking, or I'll have these imaginary conversations with her, which, I mean, I'm probably, losing it, but we all age. And but with the book and with all of my writing, yeah, absolutely. She was my first reader. Just a huge supporter of my work, and yeah, and like my mother, I mean, I'm always writing about her in one shape, way, shape, or form, or another, and so. And I don't think that will ever stop.
Sorry, I was about to ask a different question, but it just made me think that something that popped in my head as I was reading all your books is that your mom, when you're saying you write about her all the time, you do, but it also seems like she emerged in your books later. Like she was kind of there early on, but I felt like your dad was really there, and then your sister, and then your mom kind of like really made a strong appearance later. Mm-hmm. Was that purposeful, or is it just kind of related to how you were feeling at the time?
I guess it just sort of, just shook down that way. I mean, in my first book, she was dead. Yeah, I needed to. I mean, I was starting, and I needed to. I suppose. I mean, it was something to write against for my protagonist, that thing that was causing the pain. And I think that, and it's interesting because my daughter is a writer too, and in her she's written a couple of books, and in her second book there's a mother character that's dead. so maybe there's just something that we do, at the beginning of our because it's true. Yeah, later on, I don't. Yeah, I think that my mother seemed to me and still does to be not. I mean, she's a complex woman, absolutely, but she's an open book in a sense, and I wasn't nearly as intrigued with her as I was with my father and my sister. Just wanting to sort of understand them better by writing.
So, getting back to your sister asking you to write to you, and there's kind of this thread of how that, it seems, maybe starts there and then ultimately seems to yoke your conflicts about writing to her suicide. But I don't know if I understand exactly like how the one led to the other. Like, did that sort of did that impetus grow into this conflict for you about what it meant to write in light of her silence and her suicide? Were those things connected in your mind, or am I just misreading it in the book?
No, they were. I mean, I'm sort of in the same boat as you, not really fully understanding why, like why I wrote that or was thinking that, but it just was what I was thinking and what kind of came out. But certainly, but I did have some conscious thoughts about that, and sort of this attempt in my mind, I guess, to tie the two together, writing and suicide, and in my mind thinking of them both as and I mean, you could think of them as complete opposites as well, but I think there was something that I needed to meet my sister in a way, in those spaces between silence and in the white spaces between the word and the non-word, in the silence, you could say, but not necessarily silence, but in the language, in that expression. And I think both writing and suicide, and again, these are just thoughts. These are just theories that aren't that may be just baseless and don't hold any water, but that there's this sense of disappearing oneself, both in writing when you take everything that's here and you put it into the work, and in that way you've sort of solved a problem. If we're writing from anxiety, from existential, whatever it is, fear, dread, uncertainty, if that's where writing comes from, curiosity, we can then take that and put it outside of ourselves, and I as a writer, feel better. I feel good, and maybe there's something like that with suicide too. Disappearing oneself, getting away from oneself. I mean, and the pain, and so I was, I guess, just sort of playing in a sense with that idea.
There's, I think it's in this book. Yeah, it must be. You talk about a novel that you wrote, Irma, Voth, that is sort of based on, sounds like terrible experience you had acting in a film, and you turned it into a novel, and you made the director a lunatic, and then you just wrote, burn it to the ground. Is that kind of what you imagine you're doing when you take these anxieties and pains and everything inside you and putting it out, that you're just like throwing it in a trash can fire and letting it go? Is that...
Yes and no. I mean, in that case, I think I was thinking, burn it to the ground in terms of that whole experience, and and not literally, obviously. But I think the next line after that is "or wait," isn't it?
I
think
can
so.
look while we're...
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay. Let's just say it is. It should.
Yeah,
be.
it's definitely. I just thought it is. Yeah.
I'll just add it to the next. So again. Just that. I mean, I just think I was seriously conflicted, about just about everything when I was writing the book, and my editor in in Canada said, I said, oh, it's such a short book. It's only 40-some thousand words or something like that. And she said, well, actually it's double that. It's 80,000 words, because just about everything that you say the opposite as well, but with not by saying it, which makes it sound as though I'm, describing some crazy, twisted thing, and maybe I am, but yeah. So the burn it to the ground, kind of metaphor when it comes to writing. Yeah, I mean, part of it is that. I think, I'm sure there are writers here, that feeling, right, where yeah, you just get it away from you get it away from yourself.
So the reason that I read all your books this summer, other than so that I could brag about it on the stage, is that I got this a few months ago and I read it. And as I was reading it, I had read 3 or 4 of your books already, and I was noticing all these Easter eggs from things in your past books. And I was just really curious to see if that went all the way back to your first book and continued through all of them. And it totally did. And, there's just like, I feel like you're an Easter egg master. There's like always mice hiding behind pianos. Bridal veils are catching on fire. There's
I'm just like continuously plagiarizing myself, basically, and like repeating myself.
No, I think it becomes like a puzzle in a way. But it made me wonder if that is just coming out of you subconsciously, or if it's kind of a deliberate attempt to get these things out, like you were talking about. The Easter eggness of it.
Yeah, a little bit deliberate, but I mean, I have to be honest and say that no, I think I just have these things that I keep going to images, little snippets of words, dialogue, pieces of a character, just sort of the things that I go to and can't give up. But some of it was, deliberate. I mean, another friend of mine said, the book could be, a kind of a reference, to the rest book, to the rest of my work. But and it's a book about writing. So I guess when I was writing it, I was again, going back to those things that fill my notebooks time and time and time again. The same things: the dead mice behind the piano, the whatever it is. Why do these things keep coming back? Why do we have these images? These flashes of things from some point now that keep coming back. I'm sure that you're all experiencing that too. I'm not alone in this, am I? Yeah.
I definitely experience it for sure.
Yeah, and they're sometimes so blurry, and we just can't. What is that?
There's always someone somersaulting into a crevice between a bed and a wall.
Always. Oh, it starts there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like we talked about, you write about yourself and your family in all of your books, and I'm sure you get asked this a lot, but it made me curious at various points how your family reacted to being in your books.
Yeah. So I, my mom thinks it's great. She, yeah. In fact, she has done events like this for me when I couldn't, they've said, oh, you can't make it. Can your mom come? And she'll be like, yeah, absolutely. I'll be there. Yeah. No.
Who is like the most prestigious writer that has interviewed her?
Yeah. Her?
Yeah.
Who is the most?
Yeah.
Is that what you said? Well,
you can make it up.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it was Zadie Smith at the.
All right.
No. But she went to a prison once. When she didn't go to prison, but she went to a prison and for a book club that was at the prison, and they had asked me to go, but I couldn't go, and she just had a great time. She's still in touch with the incarcerated, the ones who got out. They visit her and. Yeah, it's weird, but so how do the people feel? I check in with my kids from time to time because I don't write a lot about my kids, but I do take details, some things, and
they're in this book a fair amount.
And they were fine with it. Like I say, they're writers themselves, so. They get it, but I mean, it is something that I'm sort of but yeah, like, always aware of, always conscious of, not wanting to. I mean, there's a writer in the family. What is that famous? That's it.
Oh God, I'm so bad with quotes.
Yeah, whatever.
If there's a writer in the family, it's
like
really
Philip
cool.
Larkin, Philip Larkin, didn't he say, that's it for the family? I don't know, not that exactly, but yeah.
But what about? I think you must have published 2 books before your dad died, and I feel like there might be traces of him in those books, and traces of your sister in the books that you wrote when she was alive. Did they have similar, dissimilar reactions to?
Yeah, well, again, my dad. So he only read the first book.
Oh, okay.
He died right, just right before the second book came out, and that was, that was his reaction. But certainly, there's a character in that book who, my dad and I had been, I in my mind, and I was, it was a gesture of like love, and but I don't know. I mean, I guess I'll never know if he felt that way about it. And my sister, then a book later on that she Flying Troutmans is a old book of mine where there's a character who is a sister, similar in some ways to my sister, and she said that book felt like a Valentine, to her. And like I say, I mean, she was always supportive of everything that I wrote. So I've been very, very fortunate. There are a lot of people who don't like what I write, but they don't, really, really very much don't like what I write. And
From your
angry
community, right?
Mennonite men. But I mean, they've always disapproved of me from day one. So this is no different. I'm used to it. But my family, has been, so far, yeah, I think okay with.
You talk about, I think in this book, the reaction that people had to this book, Swing Low, which I mentioned earlier, which if people haven't read is sort of a memoir in the voice of your father about the final days before his suicide. And you talk about how a lot of people reacted not well to that book. Can you tell me what that was like for you? Because I find that book to be so beautiful and incredible, and such an amazing thing you did, and so obviously deeply personal and painful. I just wondered what that was like at the time.
You mean like my community, my home community?
Yeah, but I think also you were talking about like college kids who were giving you a hard time about it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mentioned that. Yeah, so I did. I went to a small liberal arts university in California, and I shouldn't say anything more about it. But I don't identify all these things. Oh my gosh, legal and.
Harvard.
Yeah, it was Harvard. It was just Harvard. And so this class was they were studying Swing Low, and I had been invited to come to the class by the professor and to talk about the book with the students. And so I sat down, and it was a circle. I sat down, and there were all these young women. It was a women's, and they said, okay, we have a spokesperson here, that we have, decided on. She's going to be the person who talks to you and asks the questions that we have of you, and she said, but first of all, we just want you to know that we had mixed feelings about whether you had the right, whether this was an appropriation of your father's voice, and whether you had the right to tell this story from your father's point of view. And I was like, I mean, I can just get the hell out of here, man. I don't have to be here, I can just go to Venice Beach, and and so okay, and what's the verdict? But she said, yes, we all agreed that because you do it with compassion, that it's okay. So, so I was like, okay, phew, okay, great. But yeah, it really felt like I was really, on the hot seat.
But your mom and your sister were okay with that book? They liked it?
Yeah, and that was the one book, and this one as well, that I gave to them. I mean, this one to my mother, but and to my kids before it was published. And Swing Low, I gave also that book to, and I didn't do it. I haven't done it with any of my novels or fiction, and I gave Swing Low also a draft to my mother and my sister to read. Yeah, so that they would, and get feedback from them.
Boy, I just forgot what question I was going to ask you. I'm going to jump to something else. I do remember. What you write about your kids and your grandkids a lot in this book, and I was curious if you set any boundaries with them at the outset, or did you just show them a draft, like what you could and couldn't talk about before you started writing?
No, I just wrote and then just showed my kids. Yeah,
Wasn't it good I fumbled for that question?
Sorry?
I said, wasn't it good I fumbled for that question?
Yeah, I just solidarity. I mean, like, let's fumble together. I just gave my kids, it to read, because I was writing, of course, about my grandchildren
and they were okay with
Cool.
it? Did you have to take anything out? They give you hard edits? Oh, all right. Not even the grandkids?
Yeah. Yeah, no.
I
don't read.
So we've talked a little bit about it, but you talk a lot in the book about this kind of sense of futility that you have about writing, and that in your 50s you felt like you weren't the person that you thought you would become, and you kind of like question your entire reason for writing. And did that come in your 50s, or was that something you had always kind of struggled with? I mean, it almost sounds like a version of imposter syndrome, but more than that.
Yeah, absolutely a version of imposter syndrome, which is something that I've probably had, from certainly the time that I started writing. I know it's kind of embarrassing to write, a little bit. I mean,
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I mean, you're just, like, you're just putting it, you're turning yourself inside out in a sense, but I don't know any other way of, getting through my days. So this is, I need to write, all right, but yeah, always with that, sort of chagrin a little bit, but at the same time, I mean, the futility of writing, I know for me, I mean, reading is, without books, I mean, I don't, I mean, books keep me alive, keep us alive. I would say literally. So I can tell myself that and realize that, writing is not a futile thing to do. But being in my 50s, now in my 60s, and being a grandmother and coming from the place that I come from, the idea of being a writer, and I don't know. It's and I'm completely reconciled to the fact that I am, these things and a writer at the same time. But I guess one often just, or at least I did, thought that I would get to a place in my life, I would get to a point in my life where, I would have worked things out for myself, and I wouldn't have to do this, this writing thing. But that seems not to be the case. Maybe that was just something that was some bill of goods that was sold to me, to us as we age, something that, people somehow, say to people when they get older, oh, but you're going to be wise, to soften the landing or something.
But does it feel like it's getting better in your 60s? All of it, the sort of, disillusionment with what should have been or what could have been, and the futility of writing. Is it feeling different at this age than it was 10, 15 years ago?
Yes and no. Like it feels that the same on the one hand, and again, that's just I realize, okay, that's just how it is. That's just my relationship with writing, one of sort of conflict, but it also easier too. Yeah, definitely. I think I'm able to have more, I don't know, fun with it.
Did writing this book make it better or worse in any way? Did you feel like you exercised any of it?
Well, I think that yes, writing. I think that and again, writers in the room maybe agree that writing always, after one's done it, it feels good for a very short period of time. You think, very short period of time. Within the same day, you're sort of like back to like and. So it's such a short-lived, brief kind of feeling of having, done it or whatever.
Okay, I'm going to change subjects a little bit. I actually have a lot of questions I want to ask you about music, and I don't know if I'll get to them. I was listening to a lot of Terry Jacks this morning, thanks to you. Really enjoying it in an odd way. But what I actually want to ask you about is writers, because you recommended some reading. A lot of the reading, I think actually all of it, appears in your book. And specifically, I wanted to ask you about Christian Wyman, because I, embarrassed to admit, was not familiar with him at all. The title of the book, A Truce That Is Not Peace, is a line from his work. And so I guess I just am curious, how you came across him and what his writing how it's impacted you, what it's meant to you.
Yeah. A friend of my partner, a poet, who is a friend of my partner's, gave one of Christian Wyman's books to him, and it was called "He Held Radical Light," faith in art, the art of faith, perhaps a kind of subtitle, and I read that book, and I hadn't heard of him either at that point, and I was so just blown away by the book, by his writing. He writes so beautifully, so honestly, so just viscerally about faith and about doubt and about fear and about creativity, and sickness, and he does it in just in such a way that obviously moves me, profoundly, and
He had this other line in that quote, we might remember the dead without being haunted by them, that just felt like everything you do in a really beautiful way.
Yeah, when I read that too, and and then of course the title, I just thought, that's it.
So I know I saw some audience questions getting collected. I'll probably get those in a second. But until then, one thing I noticed in your book, in your first book, you have a line right at the end, I think, that I love. It's, life is not a joke, but it can be funny, which I'm going to steal and claim as mine.
Go for it.
But one of the things that I love about your writing is that you do grapple with so much pain, and all of your books, even Women Talking, which in a way is the most brutal book, has so much humor in it, and I just don't know how you do that. Can you tell me?
I mean, it's not a conscious thing. It's not a, I think it's just, it's just how I see the world, as a funny place, as a very dark place, filled with pain and comedy, and I just feel that writing, with humor is sort of, and a type of subversive humor, and the kind of the sense of humor that I come from, in a sense, from my community. Again, a fundamentalist, strict rules, gender rules in religious community that I come from, and I just know growing up, with the women, and with the girls. I mean, there was always humor was our, and jokes, were our way of really, in a sense, pushing against that oppressiveness as surviving it, but also using it to push against it, to sort of slay that hypocrisy in a sense, with jokes. And it formed a type of solidarity, amongst us. And I think that was just a kind of habit that I, just something that just became a part of me in terms of how I respond to the world, how I respond to what it is to be human, and that goes into the work, and also the rhythm of the work, and the surprise of something, humorous or whatever you want to call it, coming from, out of a dark story or paragraph or tone, and I think just thinking of the musicality of it and the rhythm and the way that would be read and the effect that would have on the reader, when you're sort of like jerked around a little bit, and I think that's, I like reading that way. And
I like reading it too.
okay. Yeah, I'm not explaining it very well.
I think you really are, actually, for whatever it's worth.
Next book, I'll explain it better.
Next book will be very serious.
Yeah, very, very serious. Yeah.
Just like an emoji with a straight mouth on it.
That's right. No jokes. Yeah.
Well, I don't have the question cards yet, so I'm going to ask you, why does Terry Jacks show up in so many of your books?
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Do people know who Terry Jacks is?
We had joy, we had fun, we had seasons in the sun, which is like so when I was 9 years old, I had an older cousin, Heather, and she went away to college, and I was I think I was in love with her, and just she was just so cool and so everything that I wanted to be, and she gave me 45 of Terry Jacks with that song on it, Seasons in the Sun, which is such a morose, macabre. And on the other side of it was Put the Bone In. Like, I don't even know what the heck that was or what it meant. I mean, do you know that one too?
No, it sounds like an AC/DC song.
It's horrible. It's like, put the bone in, she asked him again. Like, it's just terrible. Like, it was on, like, I don't even know why I'm even saying, but it was on the other side, and I don't think that my cousin had any, and she was going off to Bible school, and what she gave me. So, and I played Seasons in the Sun over and over and over and over and over in my dark room. I was just this morbid little kid, and it's a song about death. It's a song about we enjoy, but now the seasons have all gone. Da 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 da. Yeah, I'm sure you know it, and it just really, really. My mother was very worried about me, and she still talks about it. So I guess, I don't know. I guess that's just why.
All right. Well, we got some really good questions. This first one kind of follows up on something we were talking about just a few minutes ago. How do you push through the embarrassment and shame of writing?
I don't know. I wish I had an answer. I tell myself, okay, I think again of all the books in my life, the books that I need to live. How these books, that this is something that is, a useful thing to be doing, and in that way, I can, maybe feel a little bit less embarrassed about it. And I also just accept the fact that, there's just going to be a lot of me that is in the books, and it's not, it's not all, and that's fine, that's, open book. That's just, I just accept it. I try to. Yeah.
All right. Now that the book is published, are there things that you regret not including, and I will add, or including?
Yeah, I don't think, Yeah, that's an interesting question because I don't know. Like for me, sort of when it's finished, and you kind of come to this. Whoa, it's a really mysterious process in many ways. It's like, okay, it's done, and the book just tells me that it's done, and so then I just forget about it. I'm not then still thinking, but this or that or not this or not that. And then certainly, in the editing, of course, the editing is such a, rigorous, lengthy process where, then, I can address those questions and take out and put in. But I can't think of, I can't, no, I can't. Yeah, I haven't thought about those questions of what might come out or what might go in.
I think that's very healthy. I'm glad to hear it.
I think I'm just thinking of the next thing.
Yeah. Are you a real editor? Do you go hard at editing?
No.
No.
No. I'm not. I should be better, but it's just a mess, and then I just give it to my editor, and and I would just prefer not to have to deal with it again. But,
You just attach a Word doc to an email subject line. Good luck.
exactly.
Cool. Okay, this person wants to know, was it scary to write nonfiction after a career writing from the somewhat safer and more distant vantage of fiction? And when you first started writing novels, did you think you'd ever write memoir?
No, to that last question. When I started writing novels, no, I didn't ever think that I would write a memoir. And memoir again is a word that I still have a little bit of a difficulty using it for this. But yeah, no, certainly not. And yes, it was a little bit nerve-wracking for sure, more so than like you say, having that distance. If it is distance in fiction. Yeah, it was.
Okay, now you have to be an amateur psychologist. Are you ready?
Hey.
Some say that the eldest child identifies with the father and the second child aligns psychologically with the mother. Thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I suppose that in my family of four, my original family, my parents and my sister and I, there are obvious, connections between my father and my sister. For one, the main thing, of course, being that they both suffered so much from mental illness, and both committed suicide. And my mother and I are still here. I mean, that's an obvious, and why? Certainly, I have thought about suicide. I write about that. But my sister, her personality too, like outside of, because it's always so important to think of them and to think of anybody, in our midst as somebody, beyond their illness, obviously, so if I just think of, my dad and my sister, I mean, there were a lot of similarities, but if I think of myself, being somewhat like my mother, I mean, I'm not nearly as resilient or friendly or just as open-hearted, open-minded, adventurous, as she is, and I'm my father's daughter as well. So I think that that theory does hold, but I think that there are gray areas.
We got a couple more here, I believe. How do you approach fictionalizing real people in your life and also honoring them as inspiration?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's just, again, that's a good question. Thank you. And I'm conscious of it all the time. I mean, fictionalizing people that I, creating fictional versions of variations of people that I know, that is something that I do sort of sometimes not. That I don't want to. I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to upset anybody. I don't want to. Get sued. I mean, I don't want to. So it's just one of those occupational hazards. It's just one of those things that is always in the back of the mind.
Okay, last one from this pile. Did feeling overshadowed by your sister lead you to write? Did you feel overshadowed by your sister?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I would use those words, feeling overshadowed by my sister. Certainly, as a kid, I mean, my mother was, very very busy, taking care of all of us, but really, her emotional energy, I think, often, and her, her concern and her worry was with my sister and my dad too, for sure. And I, kind of benefited from that to a certain degree. I mean, I was just sort of left to my own devices, and I, just did my own thing always. Just a kind of type of benign neglect or whatever you want to call it. And I just sort of existed, but I didn't feel overshadowed by her. I just knew that, or sensed, certainly when I was younger. Later, I could know, because I was older and could understand what was happening, that she she was suffering. She needed things. And that's why the attention went to her, mine too, to her. So I don't think that so I didn't, but certainly my relationship certainly my intrigue with my sister, my just eternal fascination with her, of trying to understand her, of being sort of in her thrall, in a sense, enthralled. Just, I mean, she was such an unusual person, and she gave me the world. She was 6 years older than me. She went out she brought books and records and news from the outside world and political analysis. I mean, she was everything that I needed and wanted, and the outside world, coming from the closed community that we came from. And certainly, because of that, she was absolutely a factor in why I started writing, aside from the fact that she just said, literally, now write.
Well, those are all the questions. I'm going to ask you one last one, if it's okay. But you've written so much. It feels like you put so much about yourself and your family in this book. Do you feel like you have more to write about your family in the books ahead?
Not at the moment. No, I don't. Yeah, not at the moment.
All right, that's fair. Well, listen, for whatever it's worth, you talked a lot about the shame and embarrassment you feel about writing and put yourself out there. I feel, and I'm sure many people here feel, that it is a gift, and I'm very grateful that you do it. Miriam Toews. You can buy the book outside. All of you obviously will, and she'll be signing it right up here afterward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.